Good evening. On tonight's show, join us as we talk about a 27-year-old man and a 12-year-old boy suffering after a hit and run. So I asked the panel, do you think we're moulded by children when we become adults? Also, we discuss a supermarket that is selling second-hand clothes to make life that little bit easier for people that are struggling, but find out what we think. And also, we join the debate of Colin the Caterpillar, but in a very different way. All that on tonight's show. Hello, welcome to this week's Loose Linc. We are back and we are ready to start all again. Joining me, Nicholas James, on the panel is from Jay Hipwell. Hi. Rachel Penny. And Claire Browning.
Hello.
And also, it's our BSL show this week, so joining us, signing the whole show, is Darren Holt. As we talk about a hit and run in a town maybe just around the corner from you, as we discuss, do you think that we are moulded as children to who we develop as adults? Also, a local supermarket that we all know is turning into charity shop fun as they decide to sell second-hand clothes and asking people to come in. For those who are less fortunate to reach out and shop like every other day. And we finish on the debate of Colin the Caterpillar, but in a very different way to Marks and Spencer's and Aldi. All that and a lot more on this week's Loose Linc. Good evening, panel!
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, everybody. This is weird. We had bank holiday with our feet up, and now we're back up and running. And thank you for tuning in and keeping us company this Tuesday night. So there's a new couple of things to tell you. Unfortunately, I don't have the poll results this week. I've been a bit slack, so I will do a live at some point this week to make sure polls are revealed. So I've got something to announce to you all. There's a reason I'm wearing a hat. Now, I did briefly talk about this in the last video that I was doing, but I said that I would share it on the next show. So I've been really fortunate that on camera every week my hair's looked absolutely amazing, but if you were up close and personal to my hair, I was losing it quite rapidly from the back and from the front. So I had an interesting conversation with my hairdresser who convinced me not to do it for about 45 minutes, but I said that I wanted to go bald before I had no excuse to go bald and had to go bald. So are you ready, ladies?
What?
What do you think?
Wow.
Woo! That's completely different from me, isn't it?
The only thing is that light behind you is shining off your head now.
Looks like about to be beamed up any minute.
I just want to get a biro and write on draw another face on the back.
so I can have a week off 1 week.
Turn
around. We'll just speak to the back of your head.
What do you think, though? Like, Claire, let's go to you first. What do you think?
It suits you. Yes, it's lovely. Won't take you long in the morning now.
No, it really won't. Rachel, what do you think?
Well, I liked it before, but I never saw the back of you. I only saw the front. It looked quite funky, the way you had stuck up and what have you. But
people used to say to me, this is a bit rude to get ready. People used to say to me, because I had a bald patch at the back, people used to say to me, how can you get that bald patch? I used to say, oh, I'm really sorry, it's the headboard. What do you think, Sam?
It looks good. It looks good.
I was really honoured.
I think it looks good.
I'll put the picture on Facebook, and thank you for everybody that commented. All lovely comments apart from one, and I won't mention who that one was. But I also decided to put the picture on Instagram and Matt Damon liked my photograph. You know does anybody know Matt Damon, the star?
Oh, really?
Yes, he liked my photograph.
Blimey.
I know. I liked it. I was quite honoured.
Wow.
Let's go. Enough about me. Let's get on with this week's show. As we first talk about, a 27-year-old man has been arrested after a 12-year-old boy suffered potential life-changing injuries during a hit and run. As again, this is a sensitive story, so we're just going to say that this story is in Lincolnshire. The boy was crossing a road at 9:50 p.m. on a Wednesday evening when he was struck by the car, potentially a BMW, the police said. The car alleged did not stop at the scene, and emergency services were called to help the boy on the road. So, panel, my question to you is, do you think it's the way we are brought up that defines the adult we become?
Yeah, definitely.
You do?
For the first, it's supposed to be like the first 3 years of a child's life. If you have good communication with its parents, although the child doesn't remember it, it's supposed to, come through in the 20s and 30s that how it's been brought up, communication, it's socially, romance, education, all that's supposed to be in the first 3 years of a child's life. So it's no good just putting it in front of a television, the child. You've got to have communication, you've got to have love, and you've got to have, that contact.
Do you think, though, Claire, we can categorise everybody into one boat?
No, not really. I mean, it's okay if you've had a good upbringing or anything like that. But again, it could be like peer pressure. Things like incidents with cars and things is like joyriders and that. So they may have been brought up right, but if they've got into the wrong crowd and they can go wayward like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
And Claire, sorry, Claire, Sam, do you also sympathise with the persecutor? Like when it comes to driving off, I'm not saying at all that it was right, but can you sympathise with that?
No, because, the driver knows the law. You're in an accident, you're supposed to stay at the scene of the accident. And that's something that you're taught when you do your test and everything. So the driver will know that they have to stop at the scene of a crime, at the scene of an accident. So I can't sympathise with them at all because they know what they should be doing.
We're very easy to again, I'm trying to see both sides of the coin as I always do. And I'm not sticking up. I sympathise with the parents out there. I would not want to be the parents of this 12-year-old boy at the moment. So condolences go out from Loose Linc completely. But we're all, as I always say, and as I always say on Loose Linc, we're very good at the moment on the show with sitting and judging something because actually it doesn't affect our lives. It's not our story. It's not what we're going through. But what I do think is that it's fear, isn't it? It's you wouldn't do an accident like I'm not making sense to you at all. What I'm trying to say is there are some people that yes are very much taken up by the law. If you've decided to have a drink and get behind the wheel, yes, stay and face it because you've made that choice. But we're so easily distracted these days, aren't we? And we're so taken off by things that are happening around us and stuff like that. The driving off part, to me, I sometimes think, is that just a fear factor? Is that just fear of... They
didn't intend on going out that day, I suppose, to run somebody over. But the thing is, just common humanity, human decency would make you stop. I know the fear, but I always put myself in the place of the person who you have an
But the
argument
thing
with
is,
or
the thing
something
is,
like
when
that.
they're doing a hit and run, they're in even more trouble. They're in even more trouble for fleeing the scene.
Of course they are, yes.
It would
Of course
make
they
things
are.
worse for them if they fled than if they
You'd always be
stayed.
found out, yeah. But you would stop. You would definitely stop.
You'd think
stopped.
so, wouldn't you?
Well, you would do. Well, yeah. I can't understand it myself, but yeah, but they didn't go out intentionally to do that. But how it ended up is so wrong. That poor boy.
And well, I think I slightly, going back to the original question, do you think it's the way we're brought up that defines the adult that we become? How to not go too personal, really.
I think it depends on the individual child. I mean, I was brought up, me and my 2 younger brothers, we were brought up the same, but all three of us are so different. We've taken totally different paths completely. So I think it's also down to people that we hang out with when we're younger as well, because they influence us and mold us into who we are as well. So,
and I think if we're completely honest, throughout our lives, we all go off the scale at some point, don't we? We can't ever say that we've always been sensible human beings that have made sensible decisions 100% of the time. I think we all go off scale occasionally, and you have to make that challenge and that decision of, do I carry on down this road or do I carry on and take another road? And I think what I'm trying to say is that when I think about defining us as a child and what we are as a child, when I think about that, and when the answer comes back to me of yes, I think it is the way we're nurtured and we're loved and we're all of that. But what about the people that was brought up maybe by drug users or alcoholics or people that were brought up into the world or sent into care, and actually they're absolutely bloody amazing parents now, and they didn't have maybe the upbringing of their next door neighbour, but they've turned out to be as equally as good as the next parent around. Do you get what I'm saying, Claire?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And like I say, you go through life, and like I say, if you've been brought up in a stable relationship or in an alcoholic one, it's up to you as well as an individual of your outcome. You can't really blame. I mean, as a child growing up, if you're hurt and things like that, then yeah, that's down to your parents. But you as an individual have got to take responsibilities for your own actions. So, if your parents were alcoholics, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you should be.
But alcoholics and drug addicts are not all bad people. This is an illness. So they still probably spoke to their children. They still probably communicated. They're not bad people. So, these are different types of people. These are people with illnesses. And yeah, you don't have to mirror the image of how you've been brought up. But I think fundamentally, if you're spoken to and talked to and encouraged, be there when you're upset. And then when you don't need your parents anymore, they just endorse what you're doing and they're cheerleaders for you. But I think you've just got to love your children, and if you love them.
Do you think though, a panel? Let me open this out to all of you really. So one of you please jump on it. Do you think that when maybe we're not loved in the way that we ought to be loved by the people that ought to love us, like pure example is that I've never had a good relationship with my beloved father ever, and it's come to, oh wow, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's come to the point where we don't communicate anymore and we don't talk. But I don't blame him. I don't have hate against him. His way of saying sorry and showing love was, whatever you want, I'll pay for. Whatever, if you want this toy, I'll pay for it. If you want all these gifts on your birthday, I'll get you them. But he couldn't say the word unless he was drunk. I love you and I'm proud of you. And I think then as an adult, you are moulded into, you don't really know how to love, and you don't really know how to be accepted, and you question yourself a bit more, and you're a bit more. Do you get what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, because I had a similar relationship with my dad. My dad was only a dad when it pleased him, when, you know, then I found out, and then back in 2019, I found out that he died in 2016. So, you know, I wasn't close to my dad or anything, but, you know, I don't hold any grudges. I'm just disappointed in the way he handled things. I mean, but I try not to let that bother me, and I try not to let that affect me as a parent myself. I'm like, you know, I'm going to be better than that. And I use that, you know, I think I'm not going to be like him. I want to be better than that and be a better parent than he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think moulding a child doesn't mean to say you mould if you haven't had good communication with your family and your parents or anybody who brings you up. It doesn't mean to say you're going to turn into a bad person. It just means that you might have different advantages. You might have trouble with relationships. You might have trouble with your friends and making friends, anxiety and things like that. It doesn't mean to say you're going to go off the rails and kill somebody. You know,
but do you think if we're not taught that properly as a child, do you think like relationships and friendships and all of that and making connection and stuff like that with people is difficult more as an adult because you wasn't taught as a child how to do that?
It can be. It can be. Because a child to take a different direction, you know, than what you want it to do. Sometimes anyway, I'm probably not the best parent in the world. Well, I'm not the best parent in the world, but I make mistakes. But my mum always said, you know, if they go off the rails, all you can do is love them, and always make sure they're safe. They've got somewhere to come back to, and that's all you can do, I think. If you know, because it's in the genes as well. It's a lot of factors, and the world you live in.
Do you feel, Claire, that as a parent as well, that there's almost expectation when you have that first child? Is there expectation around you on how you should be a mother?
I think so. And again, as a parent, you know, with your first, you have no idea what you're doing, you know, and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. So when you have your second, it's like, whee, you know, that all goes out the window. I mean, my first one has got a lovely diary with all photos stuck in and everything. You come to the second one and it's like, oh, no, it's just a little one. You don't have the time though. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? And time it's just amazing where time goes. I mean, I can't believe I'm now 35, you know.
Yeah, well, exactly, Claire. I would say about 24, to be honest. I wasn't as 35.
You're the oldest on here, don't you? You kind of find some old
Rachel, you know what they say? The oldest and the wisest.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
You see, I'm almost 40, so I can't really say much.
Oh, you're a spring chicken.
Can you remember now?
Don't feel like it.
Can you remember a distinct turning point in your life? So a distinct, massive change from how you had lived for so many years. Can you remember where you changed as a person? Let's go to you first, Rachel. Can you remember a time in your life where you distinctly changed as a person?
Yes. Well, a bit difficult because it's quite recent, really. It's I can. It's I didn't know you were going to ask a question like this. Well, you know, I've spoken before. I looked after my mum, and I came to live here, and I've got Parkinson's, and amongst other things, and I've never looked like I've had Parkinson's before. I've always sailed through it quite easily. And we got locked down. I looked after my mum, and I came here, and I left my husband at the home with my son and this big dog, because I couldn't keep that dog with this dog that I've got of my mum's, because the terrier was a little monster, and I've never gone back.
Wow.
So I'm living in my mum's home. She passed away in January, so I'm here. So that's when my life changed, and now I've got what I'm living with, and I'm feeling it now because of lockdown. It changed my life completely.
Yeah.
So I've turned to Loose Linc to give me that kind of je ne sais quoi.
And do we give it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, it's good to hear. Thank you for sharing that. That must have been really difficult.
I didn't know I was going to share that, actually, but there you go.
Thank you.
Bless you.
What about you, Sam? Can you remember a distinctive time in your life where life changed for you?
There's a few times where I've kind of had that aha moment, but I think the biggest one for me was looking back on my relationships. And a few years ago, about 7 years ago, when I moved into this place, I just split up from a guy who he basically sent me a text message one day. I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. I just want to be me and the dog. And I'm just like, what? You know, I gave up my life to move in with him. So it was all upheaval. And then I sat there and I was thinking, you know what? All the relationships I've had, it's always been the same thing. It's always been something's happened or it's been toxic and things like that. And I'm like, they're all the same. And then I was like, well, you know what? From now on, I'm going to choose, the relationships that I want. And I was very careful. Since then, I've always been very careful as to who I've dated and things like that. And, it was a real eye-opener that all the relationships I've been in were all quite similar, were all quite toxic. And then I just had that aha moment, like, yes, I'm going to leave that behind, move forward, but be careful who I move forward with.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing. What about you, Claire? Can you remember a distinctive time where your life turned around?
No, not really, because I've got a real bad memory and I can't really remember anything. I know that sounds awful. No, not really. I mean, I'll never forget when I was 21 and my mother just said to me, Claire, live today like it's your last day, because life just goes zoom. And like 30 years later, it's so true. Life just goes, honestly, it's unreal. But I suppose what really changed for me, what was about 3 years ago when I went back to work, because I had my son, of course, who's got cerebral palsy. And so I didn't work for 14 years. It's got to be, yes, 14 years, because he's now 17 and I've been working for 3. And that was my choice. I mean, I suppose I could have worked, but then I had my daughter as well. But 3 years ago, I went and got a job as a teaching assistant. And like I've said before, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. And I love it, because that's what age I am. Love it. And that's the only sort of turning point, because, again, though, it's all for me. The children are growing up and they're coming into their own. My oldest, he's still struggling because, of course, he was a child of last year who had no exams. They left.
Yeah, my daughter was as well.
Yeah, but for him, it was great because he hated school anyway.
My daughter was disappointed that she didn't get the exams. She was disappointed.
But you see, you should probably put so much into it, whereas my son just...
Yeah, she's quite academic anyway, so...
Yeah. Well, mine son takes after me, so no, we weren't.
I've absolutely got to say that I've got 3 very inspirational women on the show tonight, and I'm going to show them off a little bit. So Rachel was dropped in at the deep end, really. She commented on a post on Loose Linc, and I rang her and said, hello, Rachel, my name's Nick. I'm the host of Loose Linc, and how would you feel about becoming a panellist? So I sort of dropped her in at the deep end, and she's come and she's shone week after week as she's come on. So she's been incredible. Sam was the brave person to step forward to say, I would be really interested in this. Never done anything like this before, but very confident when she's on, very, very smiley, bubbly, all of that. I tried to convince Darren to be a panelist, but Darren decided I'm not talking, but I'm happy to sign. So we're most appreciated of what Darren does. But our star one has to be Claire Browning because Suzanne Paul, who's on our panel, asked me about Claire and said, I think Claire would really enjoy this. So I said to Suzanne, okay, let's interview her. And Claire last minute backed out and said, no, thank you, I don't want to do this, don't think I can do it. And I said to Suzanne, give me a telephone number. So I grabbed a telephone number and said, would you be happy to do an interview on the phone with me? And she said, yeah. And we had like 35 minutes of speaking. And honestly, Claire, from the very first show you've been on to now, you have grown. You've been one of the biggest panelists that have grown. Grown. And
that's lockdown. That's lockdown for you. I'm sorry. Yes, I've got an extra chin.
But you've just
and we all.
You've just it just feels like it just becomes so natural to you now. When
I think though, like I've said before, from the beginning, you're really nervous because you're, you know, although you're behind a screen, you're talking with people that you don't know. But once you get into it and you feel, you know, more comfortable, but then you don't realise that there could be thousands of people that's watching you. But because you can't see them, that don't bother me.
No, exactly.
I just keep looking at
Matt
myself.
Damon now.
Matt Damon liked my photograph, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes.
He liked my photograph on Instagram.
You're loving that, aren't you?
I think I'm too old.
I'm getting there, honestly.
Excuse me, that my dog is snoring. It's nothing that I'm doing here. My dog is snoring.
Oh,
that's what she says.
Remember, you are the fifth panel member out there. Please have your say on our polls this week. Discuss what you think about our hit and run. Do you think we're moulded as children, that we become as adults, or do you think we can naturally go and change? Have your say on the show. It's just as important. You can email us at looselinks@gmail.com. We've got a Facebook group and a Facebook page. We've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, and we've got Twitter. Contact us anyway by those sites, and we promise to get back in touch. So moving forward, ladies, Asda Living in Lincoln will be among the supermarket's chain stores to sell second-hand clothing later this year to give a new lease of life to pre-worn garments. The Georgia Asda brand joined forces with vintage fashion after launching a scheme to encourage customers to take unwanted clothes back to the store. After a successful trial in Asda store in Leeds, George is launching a sustainable fashion partnership in the future of 50 of its stores later this year, including Asda Living Lincoln. So that got me thinking. So let's come over to you first, Rachel. Do you like a good charity shop? Do you like a good nosy room?
I love a good charity shop. I've got no end of stuff from charity shops, all real good labels, even with labels in it for about 150 quid. They were used to be. There were two dresses round about that, knocked down to about 30, but I love them. Love them.
You feel like you've succeeded, though, don't you, when you walk into
Oh, gosh, yes.
You find something and you go, oh.
Yeah. If it smells of mothballs, I don't go in.
Yeah, and then, Claire, do you like a good rummage?
Oh, I love it. I love it. No, I'm quite a recycling queen as well. I'd like to think I am. Bottle tops, toilet rolling is anything. I mean, for school, it's brilliant because they say, oh, Claire, you got any? Yeah, I got this, got a bag of So charity shops, I love going into them, but also I love giving into them as well because I like to make sure that, you know, I'm not just throwing it, it's going to some use.
What about you, Sam? Do you like a good old charity shop?
Oh, I love it. I was actually in the Sue Ryder charity shop earlier near B&M's, and I bought a few bits, and I love it. When I was at college, like 20 odd years ago, me and my college friends was like, oh, let's go charity shopping. Yay, let's go charity shopping. We'll go around all the charity shops just looking for bargains and that during our lunchtime. And, you know, and I still do it. I still go charity shopping even now.
What do you think about the supermarket opening pre-item close? So for example, I feel that there's many people out there that struggle with money, and especially at a time like this, there's more people struggling every day. And I've had lifetimes where I've struggled, and I found it really easy to walk into a charity shop, and you feel like you're doing more as well because you're giving to the charity and stuff like that, and being able to walk around and come out of a charity shop proud of what you've got. I don't know if I would feel that comfortable walking into a pre-supermarket and going over to this rail that's absolutely designed as this is second-hand and we're here to help and la-di-da-di-da, because I think pride will get in the way a little bit, and a little bit of what if somebody saw me looking through this.
It's not like that though, is it, Nick? It's supposed to be vintage, and I think that's why they've done it in Asda Living, because near the uni they think it'll probably be you know, more attractive to the uni crowd as well. So it's going to be vintage stuff. It's not going to be mothbally tat. Yeah,
but do you think there is that element of, like, I won't mention the shop, but I've recently gone into a shop recently. I won't even say what I bought because it'll give it away. But I remember buying something from the shop, and it's really hard to describe the story without actually saying what it is. But I'll say what it is because I'm not going to give the shop away. So I went to upgrade my phone. It's the best way to describe it, really. And I went into the shop and I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to get and how I wanted to upgrade and stuff like that. And the guy came up to me and said, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I've always been with Samsung. I'm not advertising Samsung. I've always been with Samsung. I want to be with Samsung, la-di-da-di-da. And he said, well, we've got our up-to-date la-di-da phones here, which are fantastic and stuff like that. And then we've got our budget range here. And I really didn't like that. I really, really didn't like that, because not everybody has that opportunity of going for the luxurious phone that's on the side. So I'm stood in a shop full of people there, and he's going, and we've got our budget range over here. I think there's a way of saying stuff, and that's just not the way of saying it. Do you agree, Claire?
Yeah, but going back to like Asda, and then having this vintage range, if I go to Asda, the first place I go is the sale rail anyway. I always do, and I love it. I love going into TK Maxx, for instance, because their sales are red tickets. I like the yellow ones. That's when they are really knocked down, and I'll look for them, you know. So in that respect, it doesn't bother me, but I understand what you're saying in the way that people talk about bargain and budget. You know, that's not very nice, is it? No. You could have said it in another way.
Well,
but
it's
for
just
me,
admitting that you can't afford it.
Yeah, I suppose so. But
I was very fortunate that I could afford it, but
yeah.
I live on my own and I earn my own money, and I don't have a family. I do have a family, but I don't have children. I don't have a family to bring up. Do you know what I mean? And some people.
Yeah, but even myself, I've got family and that. But my two children have got better phones than me. I'm still on an iPhone 6, which when I upgraded for an iPhone 6 because it was £20 cheaper than it was the 2-3 years before.
Yeah.
You know, still a brand, and I'm happy with that because, of course, I don't want to be all singing or dancing probably what the new ones do. So again, it's probably an age thing. I don't know, but
and you can't work it, Claire.
Yeah, that as well.
Well, the thing is, I was just about to say that it was really funny because I was sat at one desk paying for this stuff that he got me, and there was this in the most politest way, older gentleman sat opposite me talking about upgrading his phone. And he really, really shut like the person up that was going, so we can offer you 100 gigabytes of internet, we can do this and we can do that. It was like, well, to be honest, mate, I just use the phone for texts and calls. So can you just give me a small upgrade? I don't want anything else. And I'm paying £30 at the moment, but I'm not paying any more than 15. So can you? And I just thought, good on you. Well done for saying it.
Yeah, because they're trying to get you to buy more and more.
Yeah. I honestly went into the shop with a budget in my head, and I've gone way over budget on what I've got now. Way over budget.
Again, I think it is like you say for that older gentleman, because my mum is exactly the same. I mean, and again, she's doing really well because she's got her iPad now because she lost her husband 3 years ago. So, you know, we introduced her to Facebook and that so she can keep in touch, and she's getting used to that. But as for a phone, again, all she wants it for is to ring in mainly emergencies and for texting. You know, she doesn't want to do it for anything else. You won't get her on Facebook on a phone, but, you know, on a tablet that she keeps at the side of her chair so she can, you know what I mean? And I think that is personally a generation thing.
Right, ladies. We're going to delve into a question that every woman gets asked. So are you ready for this? When you buy something very luxurious and you come home and somebody says to you, oh, how much was that? Have you ever lied about the price of an item you've bought?
Depends who I'm talking to.
I was going to say, it depends who's asking.
Yeah, it depends who I'm talking to as to what I say. I'll just go, yeah, it's a bargain. It was brilliant. You don't need to know the price, love.
That's me. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Don't
a
know how
bargain.
much. It was a bargain. I'll just tell you that.
I'll just say I can't remember how much it was. It's been in my wardrobe ages.
Yes, that one as well. Well, I've got a saying for my kids, or they'll say to me, "Was it in your price range, Mum?" Because when you go somewhere and you're buying, I don't know anything. No, if it's not below a tenner, not in your price range, is it, Mum? No, it's not.
Do you know, because this is going back a good couple of years ago now, because my ex was 2 years this June, but I seemed, even though I was the breadwinner and I brought in money, if he asked me, so I bought something home and he would say, how much was that? And I just got into the habit of saying, it's a tenner. It was a tenner. And I just got into that, everything was a tenner. So I could have just spent 60 quid on a new top. How much was that? A tenner.
Tenner.
It was a tenner. And I just got into the habit of saying the tenner.
Best way, yeah.
It was funny, really.
Where did you get it from? I got it from the £10 shop. Do you, Rachel, do you think doing this will end the charity shop?
No, because all these charity shops are all together, aren't they? Like a charity mile. You go down in any high street, there's about 7 or 8. They're fantastic because it's full of stuff that all quirky stuff usually, and stuff that you don't usually see in supermarkets anymore. So no, I don't think it's going to end them.
So will this Asda one just be doing the clothes then?
Yeah, I think it's just clothes.
You see, you can't get all your bric-a-brac and all your nice little knick-knacky stuff, can you?
Oh, yeah, because I got it, Claire. Was it in the price range?
Not in my exactly.
Like I got my butter dish from a charity shop, and you won't be able to get that from Asda in the charity shop in Asda, would you?
But when you come to think about it, though, Tom, let's go over to you first. So now Asda are doing this. So when you come to think about it, and you think, "Oh, I need a new top," would you go to the store or would you go to a charity shop?
I think
all of them.
I'm one of these. I'm a bit of a bargain shopper. I'm very much a bargain shopper. I usually go to Primark first. To be fair, I go to Primark.
There are other stores available.
But I have actually, sometimes I've like gone into a charity shop just to have a look around, and then I'll see a top or something or a dress. I'll go, oh, that's nice. Or a bag. I'm a sucker for bags. So, you know, I found this Cath Kidston one, and it was like £3 for this big Cath Kidston one. I was like, I'm having that.
Yeah.
So I do like to look for bargains when I'm out and about, but when I go into a charity shop, I don't really have in mind what I want.
That's me.
I just go in and have a look and see what I can find.
Rummage. Have a good rummage.
Can't beat a good rummage.
Have a good rummage.
Have you noticed how we're all talking about shopping?
And to be fair, I'm one of the few people that actually I hate shopping, but when it comes to shoes and handbags, I'm all in.
I've been to the shop for about 18 months.
Well, some throw in the high heels and I'm there.
Yeah.
Tell us what you guys think at home. Do you think that this ruins the whole charity shop adventure? Would you walk into George and pick up second-hand vintage clothes? Or is your pride too stubborn to go near that rail? Share your views with us, because your views are just as important as ours. So we go on to our final topic, that is hit news everywhere and has been massive. So, but we're talking about it in a very different way. So, a popular fish and chip shop in Cleethorpes have joined in the M&S versus Aldi legal dispute by selling mini Colin the Caterpillar cakes for charity. Papa's Fish and Chips on Cleethorpes Pier will be selling the donut battered mini Colin the Caterpillar cake at £1.49 on Monday, April 26th only. So if you didn't get it, you've missed out basically. With all the proceeds going to a teenage cancer trust. Do you think that do you think it's been madness, this Colin the Caterpillar cake malarkey? Do you think that supermarkets have just gone a bit balmy?
I find it rather amusing. I find it really funny. I've seen looking at all the memes that are coming up on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm just like, I just think it's hilarious, to be fair.
Yeah, me too.
What do you... Go on, Claire, go on.
No, me too. I just think it's really funny. I mean, just thinking of all the names that begin with a curly cur, you know. I mean, they could have had Claire. What about Claire the Caterpillar? Come on.
Yeah, they're all male, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah. You see? I might make my own.
Caterpillar. Claire, I'm setting you a challenge for the next time you are on Loose Links. I'd like you to make a Claire the Caterpillar cake.
You're on.
And bring it on.
You're on.
Bring
Definitely.
It on.
Turning into
the Caterpillar cake. Make sure it's on.
And that's quite funny actually, because at school we have two carpets, and one's called the caterpillars and one's called the butterflies.
Oh, do you know I used to go to a school that was called that? Caterpillars and butterflies.
Yeah. So I might make a cake that turns into a butterfly.
Oh, Claire, that's going that extra mile.
No, that's too much. I can only make a little cake.
I was just thinking I could make a Sam the snail cake.
Yes, yes, Sam.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yes.
Rachel the rodent.
It is my birthday in a couple of weeks, so I could make it for my birthday.
Exactly. Yes. And then put it on our Facebook page. Make sure you put it on. Claire and Rachel, what sort of cake would you be?
Rachel the
rabbit. Yeah. That gives me quite a few ideas, actually.
They're all family-friendly ideas.
Does the cake need batteries? when it comes to their own product, do you think Marks and Spencer's have a right to be standing by your nicking our idea? And do you think that it comes down again to Pride, because I think if somebody did, I don't know a different word for it, a Loose Lincolnshire show, I would be quite upset. Because I would be like, hold on a minute, excuse me.
Yeah, this is a cake, and it's all good publicity for them. So I think if this shop, if this Papa's is making a battered little mini cake and proceeds going to this cancer charity, for one thing, a battered cake is not what they might call the best thing to eat, is it? But I think it's all publicity. All publicity. All these cake manufacturers of every store, couldn't they put a little bit of the profits to one side and put it to this cancer charity instead? That would be a good idea.
But you see, you're saying it's Marks and Spencer's versus Aldi, isn't it? But they've all the supermarkets have their own versions, don't they?
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Tesco's even have a Call the Caterpillar free from cake as well.
Yeah.
In their free from section, they even have a free from Call the Caterpillar.
What cake was you again, Sam? What was you?
Sorry?
What cake were you?
Snail.
Snail.
Yeah. I just wanted to remember that for the end of the
I'll do it but like I said, it was my birthday in a couple of weeks, so I'll make it for my birthday.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Ladies, have you ever had a cake disaster? Let's go over to you first, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
Have I had a cake that's what, sorry?
Have you ever had a cake disaster? Oh, look at her. Look. No, I've never had a cake. I'm the next Mary Berry, me.
Funny thing is, I've actually made a cake today at school for the kids. Because we did a story called A Piece of Cake, and it's the elephants. And the mum says, I'm fat. You need to read it, basically she puts them all on a diet. She puts them all on a diet, and then somebody delivers them a cake.
Wow.
But all the kids go downstairs and eat it all. And she doesn't know, and then she goes sneaking down, and all the kids to get a knife, and there's only one slice left because all the kids have ate it. But anyway, yeah. So I was making a cake today.
Good. What about you, Rachel? Have you ever had a cake disaster?
Well, yes, I made loads of cakes. I've made christening cakes. They've all been amateur, but the first one I ever made was a postman pat cake for my daughter, and they all love postman pat. And I stood him up at the side of the van, and when I went back about half an hour later, he looked like he'd been intoxicated with something, or got the van fumes up his nose. He was head first on the bonnet, so I had him wedged up with so many cocktail sticks. He didn't look like postman pat in the end, but yeah, that was a disaster. That was. It was a drunk postman pat, and they just kept looking at it. The children did, and thinking that doesn't look right.
Oh, what about you, Sam? Have you ever had a cake disaster?
Well, I used to have my own cake business a few years ago.
Come on, what's going out?
So I've done plenty of cakes, but I can't. The only thing I can think of, the only disaster I can think of, is when I made myself a birthday cake, a Care Bear, a 3D Care Bear.
Wow!
And I got it all sat down and put it all together and everything. I was like, oh yes, this is brilliant. I love this. And I went to go and take a picture. I took a picture on my phone, and as soon as I moved the phone down, the head just went plop all over the side, and I'm just like, that doesn't look like a Care Bear anymore.
My word.
What happened to my cake?
That brings us to the end of this week's Loose.
Oh, I was just getting into it.
So just getting to the end of this week's Loose Linc. Thank you for joining us on your Tuesday evening. It's been quite warm this evening. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the new me. Make sure you tune in for next week, as we have lots more gossip, lots more to chat about, and we're never ever quiet on this show. So come and join us for a chat and a gossip. It's always good to have your company. Can you thank my panel this week, please? The snail that's never too slow. That's Sam J. Hitwell. The caterpillar that turned into the butterfly is Claire Browning-May. And the romping rabbit, that's Rachel Benny. And a piece of cake that would never enter his lips because he's working on his fitness, That's Darren Holt. Join us next week as we've got lots more chat, lots more fun. Thank you for joining us. Take care, and we'll all see you live Tuesday night next week at 9 o'clock. Good night.
Bye.